Welcome to the Discourse Analyzer AI Toolkit, where articles come alive. You're listening to the audio version of our article. For the full text and an interactive experience, check out the link in the description below. Interact with any selection using our AI assistant to enhance your understanding. Let's explore.
Legal contexts in discourse analysis. Interactive assistant legal contexts refer to the language and communication that occur within the legal system, including courtroom interactions, legal documents, legislative texts, and client-lawyer communications. In discourse analysis, these contexts are examined to understand how language constructs legal meanings, establishes authority, and reflects power dynamics. Legal discourse is highly formalized and structured, with specific linguistic features that contribute to the creation of legal realities, such as establishing guilt or innocence, framing laws, and enforcing rights. Discourse analysis in legal contexts explores how legal language influences decision-making, how different actors, judges, lawyers, witnesses, defendants, use language to argue, persuade, or defend, and how legal texts reflect and shape societal norms and power structures. By analyzing the language used in legal settings, researchers can uncover how law and justice are communicated, negotiated, and contested. Key features of legal contexts in discourse analysis. 1. Formality and specialized legal language. Legal discourse is marked by a high degree of formality and the use of specialized terminology, which contributes to the precision and authority of legal language. Discourse analysis explores how this formality shapes communication, influences perceptions of credibility, and establishes power relations. Example: in a courtroom, a lawyer might use formal, technical language such as, "The plaintiff alleges breach of contract under Section 4 of the Civil Code," to establish legal grounds for the case. Discourse analysis would explore how the use of this specialized legal language creates distance between legal professionals and laypeople, potentially limiting the latter's understanding and participation in legal processes. 2. Power dynamics and control of discourse. Legal contexts often involve clear power dynamics, with judges, lawyers, and other legal professionals holding authority over defendants, witnesses, and other participants. Discourse analysis examines how language reflects and reinforces these power structures and how control over discourse is maintained in legal settings. Example: a judge may control courtroom proceedings by using directive language like, "Objection sustained," or, "Counsel, please refrain from leading the witness." Discourse analysis would explore how the judge's language establishes authority, directs the flow of the trial, and limits the actions of other participants, reinforcing their position of control. 3. Framing of legal arguments. In legal contexts, the framing of arguments is crucial for persuading judges, juries, or opposing counsel. Discourse analysis looks at how language is used to construct legal narratives, frame evidence, and shape interpretations of the law. Example: in a criminal trial, a defense attorney might frame their client's actions as self-defense by saying, "My client acted out of fear for their life," making a split-second decision in response to an immediate threat. Discourse analysis would examine how the attorney uses language to frame the defendant's actions in a sympathetic light, influencing how the jury perceives the events. 4. Language of legal documents. Legal documents, such as contracts, statutes, and court rulings, are written in a formal, structured style with precise wording. Discourse analysis of legal documents focuses on how these texts construct legal meanings, define relationships, and establish obligations or rights. Example: a contract might state, "The party of the first part agrees to deliver the goods by no later than December 31, 2024, in consideration of payment to be made by the party of the second part." Discourse analysis would explore how the formal language, passive constructions, and careful wording are used to create clear, enforceable obligations between the parties. 5. Witness testimonies and questioning techniques. Witness testimony is a key element in many legal proceedings, where the language used by both the witness and the lawyers plays a crucial role. Discourse analysis examines how questioning techniques are used to guide, challenge, or control the narrative provided by witnesses, and how witnesses respond to maintain credibility or avoid incrimination. Example: a prosecutor might use leading questions like, "Isn't it true that you were at the scene of the crime on the night in question?" to guide the witness toward a specific answer. Discourse analysis would explore how such questions are designed to elicit confirmation, how witnesses navigate these questions, and how this interaction shapes the overall narrative presented in court. 6. Construction of authority and credibility. In legal contexts, language is used to construct authority and credibility, whether by judges, lawyers, or expert witnesses. Discourse analysis examines how individuals use language to assert expertise, establish trustworthiness, or question the credibility of others. Example: an expert witness in a medical malpractice case might say, "Based on my 20 years of experience as a surgeon and my review of the patient's records, it is my professional opinion that the standard of care was not breached." Discourse analysis would investigate how the witness uses language to construct authority, relying on credentials and specialized knowledge to support their testimony. 7. Rhetorical strategies in legal discourse. Rhetorical strategies are commonly used in legal discourse to persuade, argue, and influence decisions. Discourse analysis looks at how language is used to appeal to logic, logos, emotions, pathos, or ethics, ethos, in legal arguments. Example: in a closing argument, a defense attorney might appeal to the jury's sense of justice by saying, "We must uphold the principle that everyone is innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt." Discourse analysis would explore how the attorney's use of rhetorical appeals is designed to reinforce the presumption of innocence and persuade the jury to acquit the defendant. Methods for analyzing legal contexts in discourse. 1. Critical discourse analysis, CDA. Critical discourse analysis, CDA, is a valuable method for examining how power and ideology are embedded in legal language. CDA looks at how legal discourse reflects and reinforces existing power structures and how language in legal settings may marginalize certain groups or perspectives. Example: a CDA of immigration court proceedings might reveal how the language used by judges and attorneys frames immigrants as either deserving or undeserving of asylum, reflecting broader societal ideologies about immigration. The analysis would focus on how legal language shapes the perception of immigrants and reinforces power hierarchies between the state and asylum seekers. 2. Conversation analysis. Conversation analysis is used to study the structure of interactions in legal contexts, such as courtroom exchanges, lawyer-client consultations, or police interrogations. This method examines how participants manage turn-taking, interruptions, and the flow of discourse in real-time interactions. Example: in a courtroom cross-examination, conversation analysis might reveal how attorneys strategically interrupt witnesses or shift the focus of the conversation to control the narrative. The analysis would explore how these tactics influence the unfolding of the trial and the perception of witness credibility. 3. Narrative analysis. Narrative analysis focuses on how stories are constructed in legal contexts, particularly in witness testimonies, opening statements, and closing arguments. This method is useful for understanding how legal actors frame events to create persuasive narratives that align with their goals. Example: in a personal injury case, a plaintiff's lawyer might construct a narrative of suffering by describing the victim's experience. "After the accident, my client's life was forever changed. She can no longer work, she's in constant pain, and her dreams have been shattered." Narrative analysis would explore how the lawyer uses emotive language to construct a compelling story that elicits sympathy from the jury. 4. Frame analysis. Frame analysis examines how legal issues are presented or framed within legal discourse. This method looks at how certain aspects of a case are highlighted or downplayed to shape the interpretation of facts or evidence. Example: in a corporate lawsuit over environmental damages, the defense might frame the company's actions as compliance with industry standards, while the prosecution frames them as negligence leading to environmental harm. Frame analysis would examine how these competing frames influence the interpretation of legal responsibility and shape the outcome of the case. Examples of legal contexts in discourse analysis. Example 1. Courtroom interactions in a criminal trial. In a criminal trial, the prosecution might frame the defendant's actions as premeditated and calculated, while the defense argues that the defendant acted in a moment of panic and fear. Discourse analysis would explore how each side uses language to frame the events in a way that aligns with their legal strategy, influencing the jury's perception of guilt or innocence. Example 2. Power and control in police interrogations. During a police interrogation, an officer might use language designed to elicit a confession, such as, "We already know you were there, so it's better if you just admit it now." Discourse analysis would examine how the officer's language exerts control over the suspect, how power dynamics are reflected in the interaction, and how these tactics might lead to a confession. Example 3. Legal reasoning in judicial opinions. In a judicial opinion, a judge might write, "The court finds that the defendant's actions were a direct violation of the statute, as interpreted in previous case law." Discourse analysis would focus on how the judge uses language to construct legal reasoning, referencing precedent and statutory interpretation to justify the ruling. The analysis would also explore how legal authority is established through the formal, structured language of the opinion. Example 4. Rhetorical appeals in closing arguments. In a civil lawsuit, a plaintiff's attorney might use a rhetorical appeal to emotion in the closing argument by saying, "This family has endured unimaginable pain. Let's give them the justice they deserve." Discourse analysis would explore how the lawyer's language appeals to the jury's emotions, creating a narrative that frames the plaintiff as deserving of compensation and justice. Example 5. Language of contracts and legal documents. In a lease agreement, the language might specify, "The tenant agrees to maintain the property in a clean and habitable condition at all times." Discourse analysis would examine how the formal language of the contract defines the legal responsibilities of the tenant and landlord, and how the careful wording minimizes ambiguity and potential disputes. Challenges in analyzing legal contexts through discourse. 1. Complexity of legal language. Legal discourse is often complex, with specialized terminology, lengthy sentences, and formal structures. Discourse analysts must navigate this complexity to uncover how language functions in legal contexts and how it influences legal outcomes. 2. Power imbalances. Legal settings involve significant power imbalances, particularly between legal professionals and non-experts. Discourse analysts must be sensitive to how these imbalances are reflected in language use and how they affect the participation and understanding of those involved in legal processes. 3. Context-specific interpretations. The meaning of legal language is often highly context-dependent, with interpretations shaped by previous case law, statutory frameworks, and the specific facts of the case. Discourse analysts must consider these factors when analyzing how legal meanings are constructed and negotiated. Conclusion. Legal contexts provide a rich field for discourse analysis, offering insights into how language shapes law, justice, and power in society. By examining the formality of legal language, the framing of arguments, the control of discourse in courtroom settings, and the construction of authority in legal texts, discourse analysis reveals the intricate ways in which legal realities are constructed through language. Whether analyzing courtroom interactions, legal documents, or witness testimonies, discourse analysis helps us understand how legal actors use language to persuade, justify, and enforce the law, and how these processes reflect broader social dynamics. Through this lens, researchers can uncover how law is not just applied but actively created through discourse, shaping the legal system and its outcomes. Frequently asked questions. What is meant by legal contexts in discourse analysis? Legal contexts refer to the communication and language used in legal settings, including courtrooms, legal documents, and interactions between legal professionals and clients. Discourse analysis in these contexts examines how language constructs legal meanings, asserts authority, and reflects power dynamics. Why is discourse analysis relevant in legal contexts? Discourse analysis helps reveal how language influences decision-making, frames arguments, and negotiates authority in legal settings. It shows how legal actors use language to argue, persuade, and justify their positions, impacting outcomes and reinforcing or challenging power structures. How does formality and specialized language shape legal discourse? Legal language is formal and uses specialized terminology to convey precision and authority. This type of language can create a barrier between legal professionals and laypeople, limiting accessibility and understanding. Discourse analysis explores how these features establish credibility and distance. What are the power dynamics in legal discourse? Legal settings often have clear power hierarchies, with judges and lawyers holding more authority than witnesses or defendants. Discourse analysis looks at how language reflects and enforces these power structures, such as when a judge says, "Objection sustained," to control the courtroom's flow. How do lawyers frame legal arguments in court? Lawyers frame arguments to persuade the jury or judge by using specific language and strategies. For example, a defense attorney may frame an action as self-defense to evoke empathy and understanding. Discourse analysis examines how language constructs these frames to shape perception. How are witness testimonies analyzed in discourse analysis? Witness testimonies are scrutinized for how language is used during questioning and responses. Lawyers might use leading questions, like, "Isn't it true that," to guide witnesses toward specific answers. Discourse analysis explores how these techniques influence witness credibility and narrative control. What role does the language of legal documents play? Legal documents, such as contracts and rulings, use formal, structured language to create clear legal meanings and establish obligations or rights. Discourse analysis examines how these texts structure relationships and define legal responsibilities through precise wording. How do rhetorical strategies manifest in legal discourse? Legal actors use rhetorical appeals to logic, emotion, or ethics to persuade their audience. For instance, a closing argument might emphasize, "innocent until proven guilty," to reinforce a jury's sense of fairness. Discourse analysis explores how these strategies shape decisions. What methods are used to analyze legal discourse? Critical discourse analysis, CDA, analyzes power and ideology in legal language. Conversation analysis studies turn-taking and interaction in legal settings. Narrative analysis focuses on how stories are constructed in legal arguments. Frame analysis examines how cases are presented or framed to influence interpretation. What challenges exist in analyzing legal contexts through discourse? Challenges include the complexity of legal language, significant power imbalances in interactions, and context-specific interpretations influenced by case law and statutes. Discourse analysts must navigate these factors to provide accurate and meaningful analyses.